Here we have the Record Power PT107, which is a 10x7 planer thicknesser. Today we're going to show you how to change the blades using the Record Power setting jig. So we've opened up the tables on the planer. What you can see here is the actual setting jig. You've got magnets on both sides and also one on the adjusting stem. And we place this onto the cutter block, making sure the adjusting stem is as central as you can to the blade. We loosen off and then we adjust down, so we just get a scrape on the top of the blade before we lock off. And what we're doing here, we're just measuring how high the blade is sat in the block. So we repeat on the other side. And obviously the machine's been cutting nice, so the blade's nice and level. Lock them in position, and that allows us then to take these off, remove the blade, and when we put the setting jigs back in position, once the blade's been sharpened, it's going to sit exactly in the position it was before. So we can take these away for now, and then you've got some set screws, 4 set screws here, that you actually go clockwise with to loosen off, because there's a wedge in there. Just loosen off all 4. When all 4 is loose, what you'll see is the blade pop up. There you go. So the blade's now loose because it's sprung underneath. So what's happening is when the setting jig's going on, it's actually pressing the blade into the correct position before we lock off with the setting screws. So we can take that out altogether, and this can be sent away for sharpening. So just for maintenance purposes, we'll remove the wedge. You can see the set screws here that do the adjustment to trap it along. There's the angle on there that the blade sits on, and obviously presses up against the cutter block angle as well to trap the blade in position. So this is a good opportunity to get rid of all the resin that's on the block and also on the wedge. While we've got that out as well, I'll just show you the springs that do the compression on the blade, one either side. They slot into position. And obviously the blade just sits on top of those. So the wedge can go back in, the set screws towards us, like it was originally. Just line that up, and then we're ready to reposition the blade and use the setting jig to get the right height. So we're ready to put the blade back in now. So we can just slot it into the gap. Make sure it's located correctly, nice and central with the block, and you've got that spring action. Then there's 2 ways of doing this. We've got the measurement on the indexing, so we can loosen off and unscrew that, and as we enter that back on, we can turn it down to the desired position, or what I like to do is leave it set to where it were before and just slowly put it down onto the block so it actually picks up on the magnets and presses the blade down into position, even into its original position on both sides. Then we know it's going to be correct. Once we've done that, we're ready to tighten the set screws back up. Don't over tighten at first, get them all secure. Then once they're all in position, you can give them a proper nip before removing the setting jigs. Job done. Don't forget, on the PT107 we've got 3 blades to do. So what I do is I just number up on the block each blade 1, 2 and 3. 10-inch blade. Once they're all done, you'll be back to a new machine. I hope that's been helpful. Any other questions, please come back to us.